Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another great review for you from the brand B&R Bands. Now, a little bit about B&R Bands. They were established back in 2009. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen tons of my posts featuring their straps. I think, that they definitely have a great selection, and these particular straps are actually kind of my favorite pick when it comes to anything kind of military field watch or aviation watch oriented, especially if you're looking for a two-piece strap in particular. This is kind of my pick. I think this is really the cream of the crop when it comes to what you can put on your field or pilot's watch. Now, a little bit about them. B&R, actually Barry and Ron. I think a lot of people probably quickly associate Bell and Ross. But essentially, they're a leading provider in quality replacement watch straps and bands, essentially. And what they do is they really take pride in offering premium products at affordable prices. And when I say affordable, the stuff isn't super cheap by any means, but when you compare it to, let's say if you were to buy an OEM option, right? If you got something on a bracelet and you're trying to buy the strap option on an IWC, let's say, or a Bell and Ross, they would be much more expensive. So it's, obviously there is some context to that. It's in comparison to OEM options. These are actually quite affordable, but I wouldn't by any means call these like, super cheap by any means, and that end of kind of affordability. Now, these particular straps are actually out of their aviation pilot band line, and essentially there's two different split offs here. You're going to see the tactical straps and the Cordura options, and they basically have this really nice iconic stepped taper to them, as you can see. That was made very, very popular by IWC, and I think it's really just a great look. I enjoy a nice taper, and that step taper I think is definitely a different take on it, but it does add a really nice, fun kind of military feel to it, which I really, really like. Now, these particular straps actually go for $59.99 each, so they're right around 60 bucks. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the tactical strap. Now, this is the gray tactical strap, as you can see, really nice. So the difference is essentially going to be the material. On the tactical strap, if you take a closer look here, it's essentially almost like a rubberized top layer that does have some grain that's been added to it that give you a very, very nice texture there. Versus for the Cordura, obviously it's going to be topped with Cordura. So the grain here is actually from a fabric weave versus being something that is kind of printed on from a more rubberized top layer. So what I have here also, let's just talk about that to start off with, is kind of an assortment of aviation and field watches that kind of span quite a few genres. I should say subgenres, because they all kind of fit in that military vibe. But they're also all modestly sized, so you're not going to see a big oversized watch, unfortunately, if you were looking for that here. But the nice thing is, because of this stepped taper, it actually helps these flow in a way that really pronounce the case, I think. They look really, really great. You can see that step taper here. These are all 20 millimeters, and then they step down to about 18 millimeters. And then you can see here also really beautiful hardware. This is one that I've worn many, many times, and the hardware's still in great condition. Look at that buckle. I'd say it's very similarly modeled to an IWC buckle. It definitely has even, high polished bevel there, guys. And then the really nice top fine brushing here, fully milled. So you're really, really getting a lot of quality. So it's $60 for these bad boys, but I think, you are getting quite a lot when it comes to the execution and the design, and obviously the functionality. So this is the gray tactical strap option. And then here's the black on my little 38 millimeter Hamilton auto here. chronograph. And one of the things that's really great about this is, of course, this is a more military style watch, right? But you can't really run a lot of different NATOs under here, because look at that, the 7750 movement takes up the bulk of this body, so you don't want to add any more thickness to that, because you can see there, although they do a great job splitting up the heft of this case by having a bit of a bubble back, and then, you know, the pronounced crystal and bezel on the top side. What that does is, you know, there's quite a bit of underhang there, and, you know, routing a nylon strap through wouldn't obviously be the greatest thing. Here you have the tactical strap, so this has that kind of rubberized top there, really nice, super soft, supple. It's going to grip a little bit. It's going to catch, you know, I'd say the black, you're going to see a little bit of, you know, if it catches dust or anything, more than you'll see it on the gray. So that's one of the benefits there. But as you can see, similar in size and spec, but then they're I shouldn't say, you know, not full specification, but as far as their sizes go, very, very similar, in that 38 and a half range there. And you can see that they really, really complement the beautiful lines here. It almost seems like an OEM option. I get quite a few comments when I post on Instagram with this particular strap. Everybody kind of wants to know about it, so I'm really happy to finally have a collection of their full line. Essentially I just added the green to my collection there, and I figured, hey, why not do a full line review to just give you an idea of the Cordura versus the tactical side. So really gorgeous. Look at that again with the beautiful hardware, and then of course it plays really well with the actual case, because you have the high polished bezel, and then you're gonna have all of the fine brushing all the way around on the case, so that really ties in nicely, fully milled, and then you're not adding any heft of height on wrist, which is really, really great. So you put it on here. Obviously I have a 7¼ inch wrist. I do like to wear my straps a bit looser, so if you have a really, really large wrist, something to be wary of. There's not going to be as many holes. If you have a smaller wrist, it will work perfectly fine. But if you are a little bit larger than 7¼ you're going to have to be a little bit more selective. Obviously in this case it has a very thick back, so I can't tighten it down quite as much as I might like, and have a little bit of extra tail there. But as you can see, you know, it's enabling it to sit on my wrist really nicely. And then the thickness on these actually tapers, so it's a 4mm thickness up here at the top, and then tapers down to about 3mm. These are all offered in sizes of 20, 21, and 22 width, which is really great. And what this does by having the thicker portion up here and then getting thinner is you're going to have more support and a little bit more bolstering against your wrist up top, and then where you want it to be flexible and pliable underneath, where you're going to be feeding the tongue through, is where you're going to get that extra room. So here it's going to be a little bit stiffer, a little bit more conformed, so it's going to really hold the watch in place really nicely. And then as this taper comes here, visually it's also stepping down to a better thinness to give you a little bit more comfort, so you're not going to have to worry about too much breaking in when it comes to a strap like this, because of that nice taper in thickness as well. So really, really gorgeous from that standpoint. And I'm sure you guys recognize this particular watch, right? It is my Seiko Alpinist. I think this is just an absolute wonderful choice. And again, with the thickness, having a two-piece strap really, really helps, because you're not adding any more thickness while on wrist. So as you can see here, you know, this beautiful Cordura is going to really play nicely with the gold accents of the dial, and then obviously the green plays really well. Also the green here actually plays quite well if you want to just go green on green, full motivation there. Really nice, not adding any thickness. You're seeing the curvature and the lines of the case really just wrapping, and then this continuing those beautiful lines. So I'm really a big fan from that standpoint. Really beautiful. And then here's the newest member of the team here, the green Cordura. So I'll let you guys see here. The nice thing is also when you have a beautiful, open display case back for a top grade movement with a custom rotor, now you actually get to look at it and enjoy it when you are using a two-piece strap. So you can see here, Cordura fabric, imprinted, and then B&R Bands. It is a bit flexed there because this one is a bit more broken in now from some wear. Obviously with it being a little bit thicker here, that's pretty much the only part that needs to kind of warm up to being wrapped around a wrist. This is of course my Stowa Flieger, a little classic. Oh, that's a little dusty there. Let me get that off. Okay. Classic 40 millimeter sterile dial. Beautiful, from Stowa, one of the original 5 Flieger producers. And this is, this one, although it's not a large watch by any means, and definitely not a large pilot's watch, this is at 40 millimeters. It's going to look a lot bigger. So it's nice because you have that taper and that step. It just presents this with a lot of visual weight to it. So although it's going to wear very nice because it's only a 40 millimeter, it's actually going to visually still give you that nice punch and that pop, that dynamic look that you're looking for normally when you do get a pilot's watch. In this case, this is definitely more on the sterile side. Of course, there'll be a little bit of lens distortion that's going to kind of cut your view of the strap when I have it up close, so I'll bring it down here a little bit further, and you can get a nice look at the way that that's going to just wrap around the wrist. You can even tell at that distance, and then of course especially up close when it comes to the finishing on this buckle, guys. I can't give B&R Bands enough props on that. Look how gorgeous that is. Beautifully stitched, nice and uniform, not a lot of fraying or anything like that to worry about. And then the nice thing is because this actually does use C3 loom, it has a bit of a green tint to it, and I think that ties in really nicely with the green strap. I was actually considering maybe even putting in my Zen 556A with the Arabic numerals for the video review, but I thought that this one actually paired a little bit nicer with it, and also to be a little bit less repetitive and not have the 556 dominating the video there. But really nicely done, and as you can see, the thickness really flows well with the thickness of the case. So proportionally, when you're putting it on a sports watch, it's going to look really great. Of course, sometimes you can. This is quite actually thin for a sports watch, but it's just something where when you're on a dressier watch, sometimes the thicker straps don't look great, or sometimes when you have a thicker watch, the thinner straps don't look that great. So a really nice catch here is, of course here, like let's say on the Zen 556 IB with the blue and the applied indices here, an absolute strap monster, but you have this beautiful, again, beautiful top grade movement. Sometimes you want to be able to enjoy that and look at it, and then you have 200 meters of water resistance, so there is some thickness added, just like with the Alpinist. And then you just don't want to necessarily add any more thickness to the equation, right? But here you can see it's just riding the wrist absolutely beautifully. So really nicely done. Huge fan of these straps, guys. This is really my pick. Anywhere from flight to field, these are the straps that I think you have been looking for. Absolutely gorgeous. I can't get enough of these. I hope they continue to expand, add more colors in both sides, whether it's the tactical strap here, which is going to be, obviously more water resistance with that rubberized top layer or also the Cordura, which Cordura is also quite resistant to water as well, and plays really nicely from an outdoor standpoint. But I think these options are quite gorgeous. This is a wonderful core to have. So closing thoughts, like I said, really my pick when you're looking for a two-piece strap, guys. And there's reasons here why you can see why getting a two-piece strap is important sometimes. Obviously it's not going to be as secure as a NATO because you're going to be relying on your spring bars, but I think as long as you are taking care of your watches and you're not regularly swapping them out and not checking to see how secure they are, you should be completely fine with a two-piece strap. And these straps in particular are going to be really great for a lot of different situations, whether, you're going to be doing something that's going to be exposing you to water, or any type of moisture, or, even just from your own wrist. If you're going to sweat, this is something that you can still wear, still enjoy. It's great for hot weather and cool weather. So yeah, it's a really great mesh of really vintage styling and modern materials, which I think, a lot of these particular watches really embody. Those are my favorite types of field and aviation watches, are ones that have a very clean, classic aesthetic, but then of course are using newer technologies, newer manufacturing techniques that are going to enable you to have such capable timepieces at much more affordable prices. So these things are really great. Typically, I don't really do a low light transition for just straps, but why not just give you guys a better idea of how these colors are going to render. And maybe if you're interested in the watches themselves, you might want to take a look at the finishing and the color render on the dial. So let's go ahead and do that real quick and close out. Alrighty, now that we're back close in, I'll go ahead and hit the lights. Okay, not really here for the lume, but here for some low light transition. Now you can kind of get an idea there of the grain a little bit better with the lower lighting conditions. Also, the way the color render is going to be, let's say, on that tan or that green or even the gray. The gray is definitely a lot flatter. And then of course, because of the material, it's going to read pretty consistently in different lighting situations. It's going to read very handsome, though, definitely in all situations. And then you can, if you're interested in the dials, you can see the way that green dial is just lighting up. And that green fabric here on the strap, I think, look really great. So I might even have to try a St. Patrick's Day combination and go green on green one of these days. And then the dial on the Zen, of course, you can see the way that sunburst pattern looks really, really beautiful. So guys, go ahead and hit the lights again. Thank you for sticking through this. Thanks for hanging out. Definitely check out the links below. This is a brand that, honestly, that I've been purchasing since my early days of having a channel. Before anybody would even send me any straps, I would just buy them from B&R Bands for the most part. I have a ton of their different straps, so I figured, hey, might as well pay it forward and do a little strap showcase for these guys, because they've supported me as just a personal, consumer of straps and being a fanatic a bit. They've always been around and always have offered really outstanding quality products, so I'm happy to feature them here on the channel again. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.